Hey y'all, let me tell you about Mochi. Mochi is a telehealth platform that connects patients seeking medication-based weight loss treatment with board-certified doctors and dietitians to help them determine the best treatment options to accomplish that goal. Mochi's program is completely virtual, meaning you can access their services anywhere in the United States and you will be meeting with their team online. You deserve doctors that listen. Mochi is dedicated to providing holistic, patient-centered care that prioritizes overall well-being with the goal of transforming how weight management is approached. Mochi Health takes a holistic approach to weight loss that includes visit with board-certified doctors, nutrition consultations, and medications delivered to your door. Science-backed medications including GLP-1s like Ozempic and generic compound versions, affordable and accessible, regardless of insurance coverage. With Mochi, their dietitians work hand in hand with your medication to create personalized nutrition plans that fit your lifestyle. Reach your weight loss goals with science-backed, FDA-approved GLP-1 medications and support from real doctors and guidance from registered dietitians and help with making easy and sustainable changes to achieve results. Y'all have seen this. My wife has done it. My brother-in-law has done it. One of my best friends is doing it. And it really is an amazing process that works. So get started at joinmochi.com and use code RLRC to receive $40 off. That's joinmochi.com and use code RLRC to receive $40 off and let Mochi help change your life.
At the UPS Store, we know being a small business owner means holiday time is still go time. Still get those orders shipped time. And still re-up on stamps and supplies time. That's why this upcoming holiday, while others close up shop, we'll be open. And happy to help you keep being unstoppable. Come into your local store today. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, pricing, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable.
Warning, Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast should be for listeners that are 18 years of older, as each episode may contain strong adult language and descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature that were told to me by the victims of the crimes or the criminals who perpetrated the crimes against the victim. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And I'm Woody Overton, your host. Before we get started today, I'm going to do a couple shout outs. And first of all, I want to shout out to all of our fans for making us such a huge success. We're in over 45 countries across the globe. We've surpassed 7,000 downloads in less than a month. And it's because of y'all. You're killing it, and you're sharing it, and word of mouth. And our private Facebook page went from 3 members to over 225 in less than 2 weeks. So y'all, if you want to join that page, just look it up on Facebook and send us an invite, and we'll get you approved. We have the best moderating team ever, and they take care of the site. And the site has a lot of extra bonus materials, pics of the perpetrators and locations of the crimes and court documents and press releases, etc. Plus, it's pretty interesting, our fan interaction. They have discussions on the different cases, and just check it out. Send us a request and we'll get you approved so you can enjoy it also. And that being said, we received a lot of requests for more episodes and more information and Ask Me Anything sessions, which we completed and posted the first one last night. And we decided to go with Patreon to help support and grow our podcast. And I had never even heard of it, and one of our fans suggested it. And so we did do it. We started a Patreon page, and the links will be posted. And it's simply 2 tiers where if you subscribe, you'll get more information and many episodes and stuff like that. Check it out, y'all, and it'll help us out on continuing to grow the show and produce more stuff. But I want to give a shout out. We started it, and we have 7 people who have already subscribed through Patreon. And the first one is Jenny White. Jenny, we really want to thank you. It's awesome. And then Miss Mary Alice Cafiero. I hope I'm saying that right, Mary Alice. Cafiero. We really appreciate you subscribing. And then there's Miss Amy Derrick from 1096 Crime Chicks. Subscribe. Thank you, Amy. We really, really appreciate it. And Miss Shannon Hayes. Miss Shannon, thank you. It's awesome. And then Tanya Trull, my longtime dear friend. We really appreciate you, Tanya, you and Brad, for subscribing. It's awesome. Thank you. And Miss Christine Hernandez. Wow. Thank you, Christine. Really, really appreciate it. And Miss Cassie Wallace, another one of our super fans. We appreciate you subscribing. Y'all, it'll go a long ways. And we're really trying to grow everything from merchandise to, we've already have a booth scheduled for Crime Con this year, which is in New Orleans, and we'll be doing more announcements about that. So I really just want to say thank y'all about that. And if you don't know about Patreon, we'll be posting some links to it. Check it out. And in no way is going to stop all of our fans from getting their regular Friday dose of real life, real crime. It's just simply an extra add-on, if you will. It's something that's going to help us make this go viral with your continued support. But we love all our fans, and you're all awesome, and we're just smashing the numbers, and want to thank you so much. Okay, today's episode is going to be entitled Murder Me Now! Exclamation mark. On November 15th, 2002, I was working in the Uniform Patrol Division for the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. I was working on the east side of the parish. Now, Livingston Parish was split up geographically for the Sheriff's Office on the east side and the west side. And our shift was a tight-knit group. It didn't matter which side you worked, and oftentimes we'd have to run back from one side of the parish to the other if there was a gunfight or a manhunt or whatever. But we were all a tight-knit group. And a buddy of mine, Deputy Ken McMorris, called a call on the west side of a missing young girl. And he arrived at the call, and the mother reported that her daughter, Courtney LeBlanc, who was 12 years old, was missing. And the mom's name was Jennifer Bordelon. And she stated that she had spent the night at the hospital the night before because her brother had been in a bad car wreck, and that Courtney had stayed home alone, was working on a book report, and that when she got in from the hospital that day, Courtney wasn't there. And now Courtney had also run away about 4 months before. That's one of the first questions Ken would have asked, right? When he was taking the report, he took the information or her physical description, got a picture of her, and he would ask. And taking initial reports, just a standard thing. On a teenager, you ask, have they ever run away before? Was she happy at home, etc.? And then when Ken asked that, the mom said, yes, she did run away about 4 months ago, but it was just to a friend's house and it really wasn't that big of a deal. So Ken took the report and turned it in, and when it made it to the detective's office, it was assigned to Detective Chuck Watts, who I've mentioned in previous episodes, and Detective Benita Sager. Now, these at the time were the two most senior detectives in the sheriff's office, and both of them were phenomenal in their own right. in the cases that they had worked over the years. And when I became a detective, I've learned a lot from both of them. Two totally separate styles, two totally different personalities, and really, really good detectives. So when Chuck and Benita receive the report, they go to the residence to speak with the mother and get some more information on the background of Courtney LeBlanc. Just basically get a feel for it, see what they thought. So Detective Watts and Sager continue to interview the mother, and they find out that she had recently moved to Livingston Parish from Mississippi, and that Courtney lived with her full time, and that Courtney also had two half-sisters from their mother's previous relationship. They're twins, and they were older than Courtney. So they continued the interview, and Detective Sager pulled Detective Watts to the side and said, "Hey, you know what? Something's wrong here." And she told him, she said, "This isn't a runaway." And he's like, "Why?" And Benita said, "This girl's makeup is all here. All her clothes are here. Her money is here. Everything is here. And if you're a teenage girl and you're going to run away, you're going to take your makeup, you're going to take your money, you're going to take some clothes." And she said she didn't take anything. There's nothing missing, Chuck. So then they knew they had to kick it into high gear, right? So, of course, the family is panicked by this time anyway, and the news media became involved, and they put it out that Courtney LeBlanc was missing, and then all the neighborhood people came involved. Even though they had just moved there, the massive amounts of volunteers came out to begin the search. Now, let me digress for a second. That was a Friday. We were on shift that Friday when the mom reported her missing. And by Monday, we worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights and got off at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. On Monday mornings, I always left my house phone on because I generally was going to get a call from our chief deputy, Kearney Foster. It was an awesome guy, but I mean, he's a hardcore, old school police officer and leader, and he just was a no-nonsense guy. But I learned more from that man than anybody in my time in law enforcement. But Mr. Kearney was also in charge of fielding complaints against officers, right? And then I arrested a lot of people every weekend, and a lot of times it may have been a little force had to be used or whatever. It was generally somebody was going to call Mr. Kearney or the Chief Kearney on Monday morning and file some type of report against me, and he would just call me, and either I had to go into his office or he would take my statement over the phone and deal with it. But we had pagers at the time. We didn't have cell phones, and my pager went off. Even though I had court that morning anyway, pager went off, and it was requesting off-duty deputies to volunteer to come look for missing Courtney LeBlanc. Now let me explain to you about sheriff's office time back then. Willie Graves was the sheriff, and he's a great guy. But there were three kinds of time that you worked at the sheriff's office under Sheriff Graves, and that was regular time, which you got paid your salary for, and then there was K time or comp time, where anything that you worked over your normal hours, you didn't get money for it. You didn't get paid time and a half, but you got time to take off. And then there was what I call,
hey y'all, you want to set your child up for success? Is your child struggling with a specific subject or need help with the subject? Is your child ahead, not getting challenged enough in class? Well, IXL Learning is an online learning program that enriches your homeschool curriculum. It offers practice in math, English, language arts, science, and social studies while adapting to each child, meeting them where they are. Plus, IXL encourages students to become curious and empowers them to choose how to learn. Look, we homeschool our son. No doubt about it. He's more of a visual learner, and we use IXL, and Cindy teaches him, and there are so many different benefits to the program. It adapts to exactly what he needs in different areas. So IXL is the perfect supplement to your homeschool curriculum. IXL offers interactive practice problems, educational games, lessons, and video tutorials for every topic you're teaching at home. It's easy to use, time-saving. Everything on IXL is organized by grade, subject, topic, and subtopic, making it simple to find activities for the exact skills you are covering. IXL offers instant feedback and explanations of new topics as kids use the program. Kids can explore any topic in any grade level. They aren't forced into a single learning path like they are on other programs. If you're homeschooling your child because they were falling behind or because they were too far ahead like our son, IXL is a great program to help them get the exact support they need. Kids love IXL's positive feedback awards and educational games. IXL is trusted by 15 million students worldwide and has proven to improve performance in over 75 scientific research studies. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Real Life, Real Crime listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/today. Visit IXL.com/today to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. And don't forget, Real Life, Real Crime listeners get 20% off. Y'all, we really do use this product, and it's been a godsend.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin-baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
Willie time. And that was whenever something went out like that to volunteer, that was unofficially Willie time. And on Willie time was kind of a mandatory volunteer situation. When those calls went out, you did it, right? But we worked a lot of other things like kid fun days and public relation events and stuff like that were Willie time. On this case, with a young girl missing, I'd have worked it for free anyway. So we get the page about it and then go to Denham where everybody's setting up and they're starting to search for Courtney LeBlanc. And the first thing I did was actually talk to Anita on the scene, and she told me what she had told Chuck, or she told a group of us. She said, y'all don't believe this is a runaway. She took none of her makeup. Like, her makeup was still open on the counter, and she didn't take any of her clothes, and her money's there, etc. And then, so we really need to work this. We're going to search for any type of evidence, and who knows? It was truly a missing person case. But the problem was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at that time, and actually in Denham Springs also, there was a serial killer. And everybody knew about it. And this guy was abducting women and taking them, raping and murdering them, and dumping them in the different bodies of water, mainly in the Atchafalaya Basin, etc. But they had tied at least 3 at that time to him by his DNA. Now, one of the ones that had been abducted owned a business not 5 miles from where Courtney LeBlanc went missing. So their fear is that somehow this little young girl was tied into the serial killer. That's the first thought that's in everybody's mind. So then I saw a picture of her, right? They already had flyers drawn up, and Benita, Detective Sager, had the photographs of her. And let me tell you something. This girl was absolutely beautiful. I was like, holy smokes. And she had the bluest eyes that just penetrate you, right? And when I looked in her eyes, I thought, God, she has the eyes of an old soul. You know, like her eyes were kind of haunting to me, if you will. But she certainly didn't look like she was 12 years old. She was like, I mean, how do you say fully developed? But she looked like she was 18 years old. And so that further raised these suspicions that it might have been the work of the serial killer, because he had not abducted any young girls at that point, right? Well, Courtney LeBlanc looked like a young lady, and I mean, just an absolutely beautiful girl. So the search was on, if you will, and the FBI got involved because they were already involved in the serial killer case. And on our days off, that Monday and Tuesday, we helped do the search. And it was during this time that I saw one of the TV stations interviewing a guy. And now I'm looking at this guy, and he was probably, I thought, maybe late 30s. Is a good-looking white guy, clean cut, but he had his hat turned around backwards and was in jeans and in a shirt, and he had a stack of flyers. And I'm listening to him, and it turns out he's saying that he is Courtney LeBlanc's stepfather. And I'm thinking, I didn't hear anything about a stepfather. He said she was a single mom, right? But he was just really cool about it on his interview, and he is saying, hey, you know, Courtney's missing. This is unlike her. We want her back, and all the basic stuff that people say about their family members when they go missing. But the one thing that this guy didn't have was any emotion. I'm checking him out. I'm watching him talking. I'm like, he doesn't really seem upset, and he almost seems like he's enjoying the interview. It just kind of gave me a funny feeling. But turns out his name was Gerald Borderline, and he went by Jimmy. But in the years that I would come to know him in the future, I always called him Gerald. Fast forward, the case goes on, and they continue to work it, and they eventually end up turning away from thinking that it's the serial killer that's in the area active at the time, to focusing on Gerald Jimmy Borderline. Because as it turned out, Gerald Borderline had 3 prior convictions for kidnapping and rape. And so Detective Watts and Sager, Chuck and Benita, really never took their eyes off this guy. I don't believe they ever thought it was a serial killer that was working the area at the time. And so they start looking into him. And when it comes to light that this guy's criminal history is that of actually kidnapping and raping people. And I mean, he'd been to prison numerous times for it and got out on parole both times early for good behavior. So they're starting to focus on him, and they ended up following him, thinking that he may lead them to wherever Courtney was. Hopefully that she would be alive, but they were pretty much sure by this time that she wasn't going to be found alive. But they started following him, and one night he drives up into Mississippi. Now, Mississippi isn't that far from Livingston Parish, y'all. It's only probably 45-minute drive tops to the state line. But he drove up to a small town called Gloucester, Mississippi, and that probably is like an hour and a half, 2 hours from Livingston Parish. And they were telling him he didn't know it, but they lost it. And then they picked him back up a while later, late that night, and when they were driving by a local cemetery. and he's in the cemetery by himself at night, and he's carrying a stack of Courtney's flowers they had made up with her picture on it and the date she went missing and her date of birth, etc. And so they have been working with the FBI, and they called the FBI profilers and said, hey, how can we approach him, et cetera. And then they collaborated on it. And then they went and they approached him in the cemetery. And one of the first things he says was, I'm not up here trying to get rid of a body. Well, that's kind of a strange thing to say, right? And so they had that interaction with him in the cemetery, and they, of course, they didn't have anything to hold him on or really to question him. And he leaves, but well, guess what? They know that Livingston Parish detectives are not up in Mississippi in the middle of the night for no reason. So now he knows he's a suspect in the disappearance of Courtney. And so they continued to work the case, collaborate with the FBI, and they came up with a interrogation strategy for him to try to get him to break. And they used his sister and Courtney's mom, and they gave him specific questions to ask him when they brought him in for the interview. And they worked him over like that, and he's non-responsive. And they said it was just cold, calculated psychopath, the psychopathic behavior. He's a smooth character, just wasn't frazzled, wasn't concerned. But they continued on, and eventually they wore him down, and he gave it up. He told the truth about what happened to Courtney. Let me back it up before I get to that point and tell you about the mother, Jennifer Borderline. She met Gerald Borderline when she had posted a ad to sell a go-kart online. Gerald Borderline meets up with her, and this is like 2 years before, meets up with her to buy the go-kart for his daughters. He had several daughters, and they kind of struck it off. Like I said, Gerald Borderline was a good-looking dude, and he was a smooth character. He's charming, and so they started dating. Well, it wasn't long into it, whether Gerald Borderline told her first or not, before probation and parole came knocking on her door and told her, hey, Jennifer, you have to know Gerald Borderline is a convicted sex offender. He's been convicted several times. He's done prison time several times for raping and kidnapping young girls. And Jennifer didn't care. She continued to date him, and shortly thereafter they got married, even though she was warned, right? She's been told this guy is a rapist, a child rapist, that serial child rapist. She didn't care. She was charmed by him, smitten with him, and they got married. And that gave Gerald Borderline instant access to her 3 daughters. The 2 that didn't live with her full time whenever they came over, and he unfortunately had full access to Courtney. But the mom said, oh, he loved my girls, and he cherished them, and he did everything for them. Well, let me tell you a little bit about that. Okay, there's 2 types of sexual offenders on children, the profiles I'm talking about. And the profiles show that you either are a situational offender or a preferential offender. And now, situational offender is kind of self-explanatory. This is like the ice cream man who's driving his truck through the neighborhood and sees the one kid by himself, and the situation is right, and he snatches the kid up and rapes him. But the situational offender doesn't really have a specific age range or victim that he looks for, or they don't really plan it out. It's just the situation is right, and they give in to their desires, and they rape the kid. Okay. Now, the preferential offender is much more complex profile. Preferential offender, they usually, all of them are highly intelligent. It doesn't mean that they're formally educated. It just means they're smart.
and they have a specific age range usually that they
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of an LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gifts to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Hey ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC.
They like to offend against, and they groom their victims. They take their time, they'll ingratiate themselves into the family or into the victim's life, however it is, as a family friend or a teacher or preacher or priest, whatever. But their whole time, they're in their mind, they think they're smarter than everybody else, and they're playing their game, and they're seeing how far they can push it, and until they groom their victims and, like I said, ultimately commit the rape acts, molestation, rape, whatever it may be. Now, Gerald Bordelon obviously saw an opportunity in Jennifer's family, to have 3 instant built-in targets with her 2 twin sisters and then Courtney LeBlanc. And so he marries in, and it wasn't long. It didn't take long. And the first sexual allegations came out that Courtney's older sister, one of the twins, said that Gerald Bordelon molested her. And it went to the grand jury in Mississippi after the CAC interview, which is a Child Advocacy Center interview. She gave the tape statement of what happened and the allegations, but then when it went to the grand jury, she didn't show up to testify 2 separate times, and therefore, even though the grand jury had the videotape testimony of the sister, they didn't true bill it. So, or they no billed Gerald Bordelon on the case. Then, not long before they moved to Louisiana, Courtney LeBlanc called in on a hotline and said that she had been molested by Gerald Bordelon. Again, the process is the Child Advocacy Center forensic interview was set up, and then it went to the grand jury, and they didn't bill him. They did not indict him on the molestation charges. And guess what happens? Mom, Jennifer, decides she's had enough of Mississippi, and before the case can really continue any further or any more heat could be put on Gerald Jimmy Bordelon, she moves to Denham Springs. She alleges later on that she broke it off with Bordelon, which is just absolute lie, because we know that he continued to be around them at their new residence, including the week before Courtney went missing. Gerald Bordelon was doing some electrical work inside the residence, and he got shocked. And Courtney called 911 and actually had to give him CPR. And I mean, she actually saved his life. So he's there, and I think the mother moved them out of Mississippi into Livingston Parish strictly to have a clean slate and keep authorities off of them. But that being said, it doesn't lessen the tragedy of the case. And what happens next, I'm going to play you a recording of the actual confession of where Gerald Jimmy Bordelon tells Detective Watts and FBI agent Jeff Methan on tape what he did to Courtney. You know, when I play this, it's almost like he's whispering, so it's going to be a little bit hard to hear. He's not speaking loud. It's almost like he's whispering in the interrogation room, so bear with me, and we'll talk about it once the playback's concluded.
Stay there for a couple of hours. And when I walked in, Courtney was there. What was Courtney doing? Sleeping on the couch. I went there to lock her up and told her she was coming with me. Told her if she screamed or hollered or tried to get away, I would kill her. Where did you go? To Mississippi. Tell me what happened then. I can't.
Jimmy confesses to raping Courtney before driving her back to Louisiana. But he wasn't taking her home. Where are you taking me?
She asked where we was going. What did you tell her? I told her down. She asked me why did I like the river. I told her I used to go down there when I was a kid. Jimmy, what happened after you got there? I told her.
Okay, y'all, in case you couldn't hear it, they had him in the interview room, and he admitted that on that Friday that he went to Jennifer's house and Courtney was asleep on the couch, and then he got a knife from the kitchen and he woke her up and he told her, "You're coming with me." And he said, "If you scream or holler or fight or whatever, I'm going to kill you." Then he drove her to Mississippi, where he said
that he raped her. Now, officially, he said he only made her perform oral sex on him, that he raped her orally, right? And I don't believe that, but I'll tell you why in a second. But then he drove her back to Louisiana, and he stated that when she realized that they weren't going in the direction of the house, she said, "Where are you taking me?" And you probably couldn't hear it because he was whispering, but he said, "To the river." And she said, "Why do you like to go to the river?" And he said, "Because that's where I used to come when I was young." And when they got close to the river, they got out of the vehicle, they're walking down towards the river, and he stated that he choked her to death from behind, and he left her on the river, or beside the river. Now, issues I have with this is first of all, I believe he probably raped her more than just orally, because when she was found, and he later that day, he took him to her body. And when she was found naked except for a pair of shorts and one sock. And her body was very badly decomposed, even though it had only been 11 days. Dr. Louis Cataldi, it was the forensic pathologist that did the autopsy, his office did it, said that the maggots and the bugs had eaten away the skin on her face, and her skull is showing through, and her body's in really bad condition. And he just dumped her on the side of the river like a piece of trash, right? But he dropped her on the East Baton Rouge Parish side of the river. Now, the Amite River is what separates the two parishes. It's a geographical line that separates East Baton Rouge Parish from Livingston Parish. And he's smart, though. Gerald Bordelon knows that if he drops her on the East Baton Rouge side, that it's going to be harder for them to find her, especially if the water comes up and washes her away, or her body decomposes to the point where it's just bones and gets eaten by animals, etc. I mean, he's smart. He's hoping that it'll go by and she'll deteriorate enough where it'll just be a body or some scraps of bones left. But he takes her to the body, they recover it, and Dr. Cataldi actually wrote about it in a section of one of his books, and he said how horrible it is that a young girl like that, who actually cried out for help when she made the call about being molested, and what's even more horrible is that she was put in that situation by her own mother, who was warned, this guy is a rapist, a child rapist. The mom didn't care, and she continued even after Courtney had reported her own molestation. Even after the older sister reports her own molestation, the mom, Jennifer, continues to allow Gerald Bordelon access to Courtney. She's 12 years old. What's she going to do? It's just sad. I'm going to conclude this first part episode. We're by no means done talking about Gerald Jimmy Bordelon. In episode 2, I'm going to tell you how I came to have an almost daily contact with Gerald Bordelon, the discussions we had, and then new developments in the case before he goes to trial, some dramatic things that happen, and then the trial and the ultimate result, which is ultimately what happened with Gerald Bordelon is only the second time in the history of the state of Louisiana that this ever happened, ever. So stay tuned for part 2 next week. And then I warn you, next week is going to be extremely graphic of a sexual nature, the details that come out. And so until next time, y'all, we appreciate you listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And I'm your host, Woody Overton.
Call